Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for logging in to today's seminar. Our seminar today is on the prenatal traumas which can be passed on transgenerationally to the future generations. I just want to first know, can everybody hear me? So can someone just put a yes on the message so I know that you all can hear me? Yes, okay. Thank you, Tanuja. Thank you so much. So, I have been doing therapy from over 15 years, since 2005. I started with hypnotherapy and I am now doing family constellation therapy in a very big way. I've done my training from the Hellinger Institute in Germany, and throughout the lockdown, I've been offering free seminars for people to understand this therapy on various topics: couples relationship, sibling relationship, parent-child relationship, healing the mother wound, relationship with the father. So, family constellation therapy covers a whole gamut of various topics that one can work on using this therapy. What I realized in a lot of these therapies that I'm doing is that a lot of issues are coming from the period of the womb, that is the prenatal period, and the immediate 0 to 4, that is the formative years. So the prenatal and the postnatal, immediate postnatal period are extremely important in the development of our psychological life as we grow up. So a lot of our issues are actually coming from these two phases of our life. And this is extremely important, I've realized, in therapy. And that is why I'm now doing a lot of seminars on these topics. A lot of our psychological issues are relationship issues, are issues to do with our success in life, or how we relate to people in our family and we relate to people outside, how confident we feel, how belonged we feel, how accepted or rejected we feel. All of this actually is coming from this prenatal and postnatal period of our life. So it's actually a very, very important time in the development of a person's psychology. So let's start with firstly, what is family constellation therapy? So we all belong to a family system, that is very obvious. Like in my family, I have me, my siblings, then my parents, their siblings, their children, their siblings' children, my grandparents, their siblings, great grandparents, their siblings, and so on and so forth. So all of this together forms a family system, and we are born into this ongoing system. So this system has been present from generations, and we are born into this system which is already ongoing. So from our family we inherit a lot of things. So you hear of people who have, you may say, I have inherited my grandfather's looks, or my grandmother's disposition, or her beautiful singing voice, or maybe her nature, her anger. We also hear of many families where there is a generation after generation women have breast cancer, maybe. Or we also hear of families where generation after generation there are financial losses, or there are early deaths, or there are issues of infertility. So we not only inherit from our families, from our previous generations, from our ancestors, their looks, their traits, their disposition, but we also inherit the fate of our ancestors. So as I'm going along with my seminar, please feel free to type your questions out on the side, and I will try to answer them as we go along. So feel free to ask your questions with whatever I'm speaking. If there's a question, a doubt which comes up, feel free to put it out there, and I'll try to answer it as we move along. So we inherit also from our ancestors, from our family system, we also inherit the fate. There are common fates which run down through generations in a family. So, how are these fates passed on? And why are these fates passed on? So, when our mother was just a fetus in the womb of our grandmother, she was already at 5 months, she was already carrying the precursor cells for the eggs, which would lead to our birth 25-30 years down the line. So, in one biological environment, in the grandmother's womb is the mother, and in the mother body are the precursor cells of the eggs from which we will be born. So, in one biological environment, there are 3 generations already. Plus, the grandmother is already carrying trauma of her grandmother, of her mother. So, these eggs which our mother is carrying get imprinted with the experiences of the grandmother, with the trauma that she may be suffering, with whatever is happening in her environment which is affecting her, which affects the fetus, which is our mother, and gets imprinted onto us as we are the eggs that our mother is carrying in her ovaries. So, this is how 3 generations are sharing the same biological environment. This is how trauma is already being imprinted onto us. And in the same way, we pass it on to our future generations. So, this is one way that trauma is biologically carried, it's imprinted from generation to generation. Experiments have shown that when a certain generation suffers a certain trauma, an event, the effect of that actually changes the DNA that they are carrying. And this DNA, when it gets passed on to the next generation, it gets passed on in this changed form. So, the propensity of the future generations to respond to that trauma, to respond to stress, is passed on from the previous generation's trauma. So, it doesn't matter that we have not experienced the trauma, but we already have the stress that was experienced by ancestors in our system passed on through the DNA. And so our response to trauma, our response to stress, our sensitivity to stress is much greater. Also, the trauma is passed on to the future generations through the emotional bonding process. So, what is the emotional bonding process? The bonding of the mother and the child starts right from the womb. The child is fully dependent on the mother, and the bonding which forms between the mother and the child, because of the bonding process, the trauma of the mother gets passed on to the child. This child involuntarily takes on the trauma of the mother, and this child later in life, this trauma that he has taken on because of bonding with the mother will create psychological issues in the child as he grows up. So when the child is in the womb, he is already getting affected by everything that the mother is experiencing. The stress that the mother is experiencing, maybe from her environment or maybe due to so many reasons. And the mother is already carrying the stress of her experiences when she was an unborn fetus in the womb of her mother. So that is how through the bonding process, trauma gets passed on from generation to generation. Now, by what age? You would imagine that the child is so small, is just a fetus. So how can he feel what the mother is feeling? When the child is only 16 days old in the womb, when the fetus is just 16 days old, the nervous system starts to develop. And by the time it's a few months old, 3 to 4 months old, the nervous system of the child in the womb is fully developed. which means that all the stress of the mother, all the trauma of the mother, all the stress that the mother is experiencing in the environment, and the stress that she is already carrying, which can get activated when she is pregnant, all of that is felt by the child and gets stored in his nervous system. So when the mother first realizes that she is expecting, that she is pregnant, what is the first response of the mother is extremely important in how that child accepts or rejects his own being. So if the mother is very joyous, very happy, she is looking forward to this birth, she is looking forward to the pregnancy, she is happy to know that she is expecting, that has a very good effect on the child. And this child may feel very, very secure in the environment in the womb. But just because the mother is very happy with this news, it doesn't mean that it is going to be a secure environment, because with the pregnancy, because of the hormonal changes, a lot of the mother's unhealed traumas from when she was a fetus in her mother's womb can get activated. A lot of that trauma can get reactivated, and the child can feel the stress of that unhealed trauma that the mother is carrying from her time in the womb. Maybe her mother was very stressed, and that stress remains unhealed in the mother's environment, which then gets passed on involuntarily to the child. So even as young as 16 days, the child is already able to feel the mother's stress and the mother's acceptance or rejection of it. What are the other things that can affect the mother and stress the child? So if the mother is not expecting, if this is a surprise and she is not ready for this baby, maybe because she has just given birth a year and a half or 2 years back, so she is not yet ready for the next child. There could be financial issues. It could be that the mother is unsupported by the father, by her partner. Maybe it is the beginning of a career for the woman and she is not ready to put that on hold and to have this child. It could be that she has recently had a miscarriage, and so she is not dealt with that emotional trauma yet, and she is not ready for the next child, and so the news of this pregnancy may bring up the fear of maybe losing this child, since she has already recently lost a child. Also, the pregnancy could activate her own traumas with her mother. So maybe she didn't feel loved, she didn't feel accepted by her mother, or it's possible that she lost her own mother in childbirth or very early on in life. And all those traumas can get activated for the mother when she gets the news of this pregnancy. So all of these could lead to rejection or non-acceptance of the child, which the child will now carry as his primary feeling, as his first experience of being in the mother's womb and of the mother's connection to the child. This will later in life create a lot of psychological issues for the child. Now, how does all of this affect the child? So, when the mother is stressed, the mother and child are in a symbiotic relationship. The child is fully dependent on the mother for its survival, for its nutrition, for its nurturing, for everything. How the mother feels is how the child is feeling. So if the mother is stressed out and unhappy, that's how the child is feeling. If the mother is happy, that's how the child is feeling. So the mother's stress, because of all these reasons which I just spoke about, can pass on to the child through the cord. So the environment for the child becomes stressful. The child can feel the stress of the mother. And if the mother feels unsupported by the partner, and if this is an ongoing stress that she is feeling, this stress passes on to the child, and this increases the cortisol levels in the mother's system. This cortisol, which is a stress hormone, gets passed on to the child, and it can put the child in a fight flight. That means it puts the child into a stress situation. And because of this fight flight response which comes up in the child, it is also possible that the development of the child gets affected. So what happens in a fight flight response is that the stress hormones go up, and the blood which is needed for the development in the viscera of in the body for the development of the organs gets pushed to the extremities. In a fight flight, that's what happens. The body gets ready to either fight or to run from the situation. The child is trapped in the womb, and over there he's experiencing this fight flight because of the stress of the mother. So the blood gets diverted to the extremities, and it's possible that the child may develop smaller than normal. So when there is a constant stress, the child's sensitivity to stress once he is born is much higher. So the child is more sensitive to stress, responds or reacts more to stress when he has been in a stressful environment in the womb. And this can later on lead to many behavioral issues, psychological issues, issues in the development of the child. It can give maybe tics, it can give learning disabilities. So a lot of issues can happen in this period. Of course, this is not to scare you all and to say that now the baby is doomed, because a lot of us already have children. And through constellation therapy, we can work with these traumas that have been experienced by the mother and the child in the womb. So I'm just going to take a few questions before I move ahead. Okay, so what is the father's role when the child is in the womb? So of course, firstly, we have to understand that the father's role is as important as the mother. So not only can trauma be passed from the mother, trauma can also be passed from the father through the sperms, because the sperm continues to develop throughout life. By the time of conception, the impact of everything that the father is carrying from the mother's womb and everything that the father has experienced can all be passed on, gets imprinted on the sperm and gets passed on to the child as a trauma. The father's role is one of supporting the mother when she is expecting. So the father's role is one of being a support to the mother. That's very important, that the mother feels supported, that she feels that she is not alone in this pregnancy, in this journey. So the connection of the father to the child through the mother, and also connecting to the child while the child is in the womb, is extremely important. So the father's role is a supportive role. The child feels the presence of the father through the mother. While the child is in the womb, he experiences the energy of the father through the mother. So if the father is present for the mother, if he is a support for the mother, if he is a loving partner, and he fulfills what the mother needs in order for her to feel comfortable during this pregnancy, the child can experience that energy of the father through the mother's behavior, through the mother's energy, and how she looks at the father. And that is how the child starts forming a relationship with this father who he does not even know. So he gets to know the father through the mother. Okay, so what happens if there have been previous abortions or miscarriages which have happened before the birth or before the mother is pregnant with this particular child? So if there have been abortions and miscarriages, unfortunately, most times when it comes to abortions or miscarriages, for whatever reason they may have happened, or the decision may have been taken, or if there was a premature birth which did not survive, or the early birth of a child which did not make it, there are no rituals, there are no formal mourning periods or mourning rituals which really exist in society. So when we lose a loved one, you have a whole support system which comes together to give support to the survivors when someone dear dies or passes away before time or whatever. But when it comes to abortions and miscarriages, there is a tendency to put this behind us as soon as possible. There is a belief that it is best forgotten as soon as possible, and rather than to drag it on or to talk about it or to let it linger on. So this does not give the mother, in fact the couple, the time that is needed to mourn the loss of the miscarriage or to feel the guilt of the abortion, which is very natural for a mother to feel when she aborts a child. The abortion could be because of so many reasons, because of financial reasons, health reasons, whatever. So there is no mourning period given for abortions, miscarriages, early deaths of children. And because of that, the suppressed emotions, the suppressed pain, the suppressed hurt, the suppressed grief, and maybe even anger is in the body of the mother. The unexpressed emotions, pain, hurt, anger gets suppressed in the mother's body. It is not dealt with, it has not been expressed, it is unresolved. So the environment in the womb carries this suppressed hurt, pain, anger, despair of the mother, the grief of the mother. And the next child which comes and gets implanted in the womb is able to experience this unhealed, unexpressed trauma of the mother in the womb. And this child, and this is very commonly seen in constellation therapy, that this child carries that guilt of the mother, that pain, that grief of the mother, and then is unable to live its own life fully. So the child carries the guilt of having survived, it carries the mother's guilt of the abortion or the mother's guilt of the miscarriage, and this child is unable to live its own life fully. So it's very important that the grief, the trauma of abortions, miscarriages is completely healed and dealt with before we go for the next pregnancy, because that affects the other child who comes in and can have a lasting impact on the life of this child. Often, with the loss of one child, parents quickly have the next child to sort of get over that pain or that trauma. So they decide to quickly have the next child, and this child is a replacement child. So this child is serving the purpose of replacing the unborn child. And because this child is actually serving a purpose of replacing the unborn child, it literally does not have an identity of its own. So these children in the womb can feel that detachment because the mother has lost a child, maybe in abortion, maybe in miscarriages and early death. So the mother will not emotionally connect to this child out of the fear that what if she loses this child? So she does not want to go through that pain and hurt again. So may not connect emotionally to the child with the fear that she may lose the child again. If the child was lost at a certain time, like if the miscarriage happened at 4 months, 5 months, till that time, the mother will be very stressed, she will be very anxious. So till that time does not pass, she will be very, very stressed. And if it is a replacement child, the child himself is serving an agenda, a purpose, so does not feel its own identity and carries that pain that the mother feels when this child is born. It may feel like it may not feel like himself or herself growing up. This child may feel that it is living someone else's life, and as a infant, this child may have a lot of colic, lot of issues of sadness, kind of a depressive demeanor, and also maybe a crybaby, so may tend to cry a lot. So that is a very typical trait of a replacement child. May carry a lot of melancholy. Okay, so if there are questions, guys, you all can put those questions out here, even on Insta. If there are questions, you all can put your questions. I can read them out and answer them. So please feel free to put your questions here. So the prenatal trauma that is experienced in the womb, which can be the trauma of not only the mother, but it can also be the trauma, the unprocessed, unhealed trauma of the grandmother, which is passed on from the mother, from the grandmother to the mother, and from the mother to the child. So all this trauma which the child carries can lead to restlessness in the child after it's born, can lead to agitation, can lead to a susceptibility to illness or tics, learning difficulties, behavior disorders, mental difficulties, mental issues, psychological issues, feeling of depression later on in life if it's carrying the unhealed trauma of the grandmother. So a lot of our issues, yes, I will be uploading this on Instagram, Sarah, so you can look at it later. So a lot of our issues come from this period of the womb and the initial 3 to 4 years, out of which the first 2 years are most important. If the mother had a thought of aborting the child because she was not ready for this child, and she even attempted to abort this child but was not successful, for whatever reason the abortion did not take place, and then the child is still born in spite of the mother not wanting the child and attempting to abort the child's personality can be split off. So one part of the child will be carrying that trauma of the attempt at abortion. So the child actually has an existential trauma because its entire existence, its survival has been threatened by the person on who the child is fully dependent. So this leads to a lot of psychological issues. These children never form secure relationships in life. They find it very difficult to trust people, and it's very easy for them to dissociate and to feel like they are outside their body, because that is how they survived the trauma of the abortion that was attempted by the mother. Okay, I'm just going to take a few questions here. So how to get the child out of all these traumas? That's a question I have here. It's very important that the parent heal their own trauma first. Whatever it is that we have passed on to the child, because we are always in the environment of the child and the child is fully dependent on us, We are the guiding force in the child's life till the child is a young adult. So, our trauma, when it is unhealed, continues to affect the child through our behavior and through how we relate to this child. So, whatever may have happened in the womb, whatever the child may have already got from us because of whatever happened in the womb, because of our emotional mental state, and because of what we were already carrying from our mother and our parents, it's important that the parent first deal with their own trauma. When we deal with our own trauma, how we relate to the child, how we associate with the child, and how we view our worldview changes. So our perception of things changes, and that helps us to deal in a very different way with the growing child. So healing our own trauma is extremely important. That's the first step to getting the child out of it. Because the child is so attached to the mother, to both parents, but especially to the mother, that this ongoing trauma that the mother carries, because whatever happened in the upbringing, also the mother will tend to replicate with the child. Even if she consciously tries to do the exact opposite, the emotional space from which the mother is coming is a space of that hurt, that pain, that void. So it's important that the mother deals with that first before we think about how to heal the child. Today, a lot of young girls are getting pregnant and are indulging in abortions. What about these girls, and what happens when they actually have children once they are married? So, a lot of these abortions, the abortions are actually, so every conception, like I said, from 16 days, the whole nervous system of the child starts developing. So each one of these abortions actually has a place in the family system. It's important whether the abortion has happened before marriage or after marriage or in between children. Each of these aborted energies need to be acknowledged. They need to be given a place in the system. If that is so, these abortions will not only affect maybe somewhere deep down when she is ready to have a child, those previous abortions could come up as a trauma which could be felt by the child that she carries later on. These abortions can also be suppressed as guilt, which they are not ready to acknowledge when they are younger, but as they grow up and mature, get married, settle down, those guilts could come up as physical symptoms in the body of the mother. So inexplicable pains, aches, which are chronic, which they have been carrying from years, is actually those suppressed guilt and the unprocessed trauma of those abortions. The children which are born later on after marriage or whenever, these children will feel the absence of these aborted energies because they are the siblings to these children. So it's important that all these abortions are given a place, and the child which finally is born is given the right place. So if there are 3 abortions, 4 abortions, the child which is born is the 4th, 5th, 6th child, and that needs to be acknowledged. So these children will be affected by the unhealed, unresolved trauma of the abortions. Okay. If the mother only does the FC healing and the father does not do any healing, will the healing be completed or only partial healing takes place? Shiraz, if the mother does the healing, because the mother is literally the center of the universe, not only for the child but actually for the whole family. If the mother is healed, it heals to a very large extent the environment in the house. It heals her relationship with her spouse. And when that couple relationship is healed, the environment in the house changes and it creates a very good environment for the growing up child. So the mother healing is the first step to any healing. It's also important that the mother gives attention to her own traumas, to what is it that she's carrying from the womb or from the early formative years. What is she carrying? It's important that she heals her trauma. The mother being healed and complete and whole is important for the well being of the entire family. So the family constellation always insists on the mother's healing. It doesn't matter, it's good if the father also wants to do healing for his own traumas, but the healing of the mother heals the entire system to a very large extent. So that would be a great first step. An 8-month child is suffering from severe eczema. She had a very difficult delivery. This is her first child. Okay. So if it was a difficult delivery, it's also possible that somewhere emotionally or psychologically the mother was not prepared for this pregnancy, or maybe it was a difficult pregnancy, so the mother did not bond with the child very well, so she was a little disconnected from the child. Or it's possible that the pregnancy activated the mother's trauma of what she suffered when she was in the womb or in the growing up. So her bonding with her mother may not have been so good, so she could not bond with the child. Maybe the child was a surprise, unexpected. Mother was not ready, so it was a difficult pregnancy, emotionally not attached. So the eczema, anything on the skin, and maybe after the delivery also, the child did not get the physical closeness that it needs for the first bonding, which is very, very important for the child to feel his own being and his own identity. Because the child is fully dependent on the mother for those 9 months. He's aware, he's familiar with the mother's smell, the mother's heartbeat, the mother's breath, the mother's feel, the mother's energy. So when the child is born, the bonding of the child to that mother, the initial bonding, is extremely important. If it was a difficult delivery, it's possible that the child did not have contact with the mother for a period of time. And the need of the child to feel the mother, was unfulfilled. So the eczema could be a result of that. And it can be worked on in constellation therapy by working on the whole trauma of the delivery and what happened in the womb with the child and the mother. So, Jafar Ali, I hope that answers your question. What about prenatal trauma that the father carries? How does this pass to the child? So the prenatal trauma which is carried by the father, firstly the father of course is also being carried by the mother in her womb. So the father is constantly affected by the stress of the mother. Also the sperm gets imprinted with all the experiences that the man goes through right after birth. So from the birth, from the womb, then after birth period till youth, in the adolescent, youth and adult life till the time of conception, the sperm continues to get imprinted with the experiences of the father, and this gets passed on to the child during conception. Okay, there are couples that when they fall pregnant, they stay completely silent about the pregnancy until they have checked out for any deformities, Down syndrome, etc. Then only I'm sorry, I'm not able to so maybe then only they go ahead with the pregnancy. So what is the question here? Jessica, please can you tell me what is the complete question? I am not able to.
Ritu, can you hear me?
Yes.
If you don't mind, ask it on here. So
Yeah.
just basically, I know, and this is a couple that I know that they've had 2 children so far, and they're very pedantic about finding out that everything is safe, the child is completely healthy, no Down syndrome, no deformities, no chromosome, nothing that could potentially hurt the child.
Yeah.
Only then, after like let's say 4 months, do they announce the pregnancy. And I'm just curious as to whether do you think that child would be prone to come out with like perfectionist tendencies? That the parents were almost ashamed to report any pregnancy until they were sure that the child is in perfect development.
So the parent not wanting to report the pregnancy is something which is very common in many traditions, because there is a belief that there may be some kind of a negative influence, or if the mother loses the child, if there is an early miscarriage, it's better not to announce the pregnancy till it has reached a safe period, maybe the first trimester, and only then to announce it. So this is a belief system that exists in many cultures. It could also be coming from the fact that earlier medical facilities were really, really pathetic. It's only in the past 35-40 years that we have good medical facilities. So miscarriages were very, very common. So maybe that was a reason that people did not like to really speak about the pregnancy till they were not sure that they are in the safe zone. That could be one thing. About these people, this particular couple that you're talking about who wants to first check if everything is okay, in my experience, and I've had clients like this who are suffering trauma because of this experience in the womb, where there was an ambivalence. The parents were not sure if they're going to keep the child, because they would only keep the child if the child was perfectly normal.
Yeah.
And in fact, these children end up having children with defects, end up having children who may have some kind of a disability or some kind of a special need. It seems to be some subconscious way of proving that it does not matter if the child has a disability or is not so-called perfect, or has some kind of a issue, but they can still be loved and they are still loved by us. So in fact, they carry an anger, they carry a despair and a grief at a very deep level of this ambivalence that the parents had, whether that they will only keep the child if the child is fine, otherwise they will abort the child. So what I've seen is it actually comes out in the next generation, as a need for them to prove that it doesn't matter, and they end up having children with some syndrome or some special needs, and they're very happy to accept this child in their life.
Yeah.
So it has a very deep psychological effect. It stays in their subconscious, and it's what affects their decisions later on in life. They may even decide to adopt a child who then may end up being a child who later has autism or some other kind of a special needs requirement.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So yes, if Jafar, thank you for that. If the child was put directly into the incubator on the first day, when the child did not get the mother's touch, which is extremely important for the child to feel its own identity. So anything to do with the skin is a lot to do with the touch, and this is something we can work with in constellation therapy. Nowadays there are methods where you can influence the gender of the baby. Few famous personalities have done it so they can have a boy. What possible issues can this baby have? So obviously when there are any processes, any procedures, anything done which is not natural, which is not where there are, so it's not done with love and emotion, but it is done very clinically, with using a lot of your, like you are fulfilling an agenda. So when children are conceived in this way, the child himself or herself will not feel emotionally bonded to the parents, because the child comes with an agenda. The child has agenda already given to it before its birth. It has to fulfill certain norms, it has to be a certain way for the child to be accepted by the parents. So the connection, the emotional connect, does not exist from both the parent and the child. And this child may end up becoming a people's pleaser, may end up actually spending his life trying to please the parents, trying to be this child who's there for the parents. It's possible, but inside this child may be very emotionally disconnected and may not be able to form good relationships. So as a baby also, the child could be disconnected, may not have a good emotional bonding, may not grow the way that it's supposed to, may not be able to latch on to the mother for feeding. So there can be many issues. As in it's a clear indication that the parent want a boy, and that's why I do the procedure. Yeah, so when the parents want a boy, so one of the things is, which I've seen commonly in what comes up in constellation, is that the parents have a desire for a boy. They want a boy due to whatever reason, and the child in the womb is a girl. And the child knows that it's a girl and that the parents desire a boy. And it's literally like they are so aware of the mismatch of what is needed by the parents and what they are, that their whole life they are never able to accept their own femininity. They are not able to express their femininity. They may have issues of PCOD, PCOS. They may have issues in their periods, very painful periods, and they may take up unconventional careers which are more male dominated. They spend their life trying to prove that they are as good as or better than boys. So their whole life becomes an agenda of being someone they are not, and not accepting their own femininity. And this creates a lot of confusion in the child, a lot of non-acceptance by the parents and by the child themselves. So this rejection comes from the womb, and they reject themselves for the rest of their life. It also creates a lot of grief, which comes up when we work in the therapy, a lot of suppressed grief. And these women where the parents wanted a boy and it's a girl, then also do not want girls themselves because of the trauma they had to go through because they were girls. Yeah, my Insta handle is @FamilyConstellation India. I'm just going to type it out here for everyone to see, and I'm going to continue taking questions, guys. So just continue with your questions. Yes, I hope everyone can see that. Okay. What possible issues can arise to the baby who had to go through a very long, difficult labor, maybe 2 days or more, only to be delivered in an emergency, perhaps out of distress and prolonged labor? The parents perhaps also wanted a boy instead of a girl in that case. So, a difficult labor for the child is obviously a difficult labor for the mother. So it is a trauma which is undergone by both the mother and the child. And it takes a long time for the mother to recover, and maybe the child is not able to connect with the mother immediately after birth. So that can create an issue, a bonding trauma for the child, a feeling of being disconnected. Also, the fact that the labor was difficult already shows that maybe somewhere the mother was not prepared for this child, or she had a difficult pregnancy, or she didn't have a supportive environment, or she was not ready to deliver this child, and that is why maybe the labor turned out to be very, very difficult and the child had to be delivered in an emergency. So we need to look into what is the trauma that the mother had in her environment because of which she had this difficulty. maybe a difficult pregnancy, then a difficult labor. She probably couldn't connect to the child. And this child, which could not connect to the mother, maybe because it was kept in an incubator. So this is going to affect both mother and child. The child may feel disconnected, may end up having skin issues, may not feed well, may not feel the bonding with the mother, and the mother also may not be able to bond with the child because of the trauma that she went through. So once we heal the mother, she will be able to bond with the child much better, and the child will start to feel more secure in the mother's environment. Okay. Okay. So, even premature births could be a result of the environment in which the pregnant mother is living. So if it's a very unsupportive, stressful, emotionally stressful environment, and the mother is carrying a lot of stress and anxiety because of that, the cortisol, the stress hormones, are produced excessively in the body. These stress hormones affect the baby in the womb, and it leads to a faster development of the child, the excessive cortisol, and because of which it's possible that the mother goes into labor much faster than the due date, and the child is born premature. So when it comes to a premature birth, it's important to look at the environment of the mother during her pregnancy and the stress factors that existed in her environment which affected the birth of this child. And it can also lead to trauma, can lead to, of course, prenatal depression, postnatal depression. So an unsupportive environment, the activation of the mother's own traumas, unhealed traumas, can lead to violence during pregnancy, or the pregnancy itself may be a result of maybe some violence. There's no love in the marriage. So prenatal depression, postnatal depression are a result of what the unhealed traumas that the mother is carrying, and her lack of connection or bonding to the child in her womb. So that period of the pregnancy and the womb is extremely important in all of the healing that we do of any issues, even for an adult. A lot of it is coming from what is unhealed in the womb and in the growing up years. Okay, so what about when you want a girl but then you get a boy and are very upset over the gender? I think I've already spoken about this. What could be the issues? Okay, so guys, tomorrow I have a seminar on the formative years, on what happens, what could happen in the 0 to 4, which is an extremely important time period for the child and for the mother, and the bonding that happens over there, and how it can affect both mother and child. So do log in tomorrow for this. If you have suggestions of topics that you would like to hear about, constellation therapy covers a whole range of topics. It touches every area and every aspect of our life, because of course we carry everything. Everything is related to our family life, to our relationships, even our work and our business. So do please send me your suggestions on topics, and yes, you will get the link if you all have registered. Please do register on the Google Forms. So then I have your email ID, and then you will get the link without fail. I'm putting over here, somebody has asked for my contact details, so I'm going to put over here my mobile number as well as so that's my mobile number. This is a India number, so please put whatever area code you need to put from wherever you are in the world. And my Insta handle is at Family Constellation India. and my email ID is kabraritu.68@gmail.com.